So let's be honest, there are so many crazy, bonkers looking horror movies streaming over on Tubi, the free streaming service where you only have to watch a few ads, like this, or this thing, or I don't even know what the heck this is. But this is the series where I take a chance on a lot of these movies and let you know which ones are worth watching, and I'm actually really excited about this list today. So my name is Daniel with the Cobwebs channel, and let's get started. Island of the Fishmen from 1979. So this is an Italian creature feature directed by Sergio Martino, who's the director of a lot of fantastic giallo films. And I've wanted to see this movie for a long time, partially for him, but also just because I'm a huge fan of Creature from the Black Lagoon style movies. I love humanoid fish monsters, and this looked like it had some cool ones. It's got a fantastic poster, but it's been difficult to see for a long time. So I was so excited to find that it's streaming on Tubi. And for these lists that I do that aren't ranked, I usually start with the movie I'm most excited to talk about, and that is definitely Island of the Fishmen, because it lived up to my expectations and then some. It has an incredible opening scene that felt like it was ripped out of my brain, just like an ideal movie for me, where these people come onto this island and they just start getting massacred by these human fish monsters. There's amazing gore effects, multiple decapitations, and the atmosphere of it was just incredibly spooky. It was dark, foggy, very ominous. It just had a really great creepy feel, in addition to having these great practical effect monsters ripping through people. After that, it becomes about these guys whose ship sinks in the Caribbean. They wash ashore and they're exploring this island, and they get welcomed in by this strange couple. The woman is actually played by Barbara Bach from The Spy Who Loved Me, which is a top 3 James Bond movie. You can fight me on that. And I would say the vibe of this is very similar to Lucio Fulci's Zombie. It actually came out the exact same year, and both films have Richard Johnson as a guy who's on the island, and here he gets to play a really devious villain. So you've got some good human antagonists, but then you've got the fish monsters. You've got crazy explanations for why there are fish monsters. They're not just some like missing link that evolved. There's an explanation, and it's nuts. But in addition to it being crazy, which it definitely is, I really think it's a legitimately good film. It looks beautiful. The version streaming on Tubi looks immaculate. It is just a really good time creature feature, and when I'm comparing it to Humanoids from the Deep, which is another fish monster movie that came out the very next year in 1980, I actually think this one is a little bit better.
May die. Neon Maniacs.
Neon Maniacs from 1986. Another creature feature, and another one that has an incredible opening where a big group of teenagers go out to party, and you kind of think like this is your group of characters, but it ends up being another massacre where a group of homicidal, grotesque looking monsters attack them, kill almost all of them. You've also got a decapitation here of a girl who's going down on her boyfriend. So yes, absolutely insane stuff going on. But nobody believes the sole survivor about what happened. She does meet a couple other teenagers who want to help her, and they try to stop these things. So much fun. Like, I can't even tell you what a blast Neon Maniacs is. I mean, for one thing, yes, you've got incredible creatures here. They have all these different themes. So you've got like a samurai one, a caveman one. My favorite is probably this reptilian lizard thing. I don't think any of the individual designs are amazing on their own. There's no xenomorph or pumpkin head here. But altogether, it's just great to watch like a teen slasher movie with a bunch of different creative looking monsters. Like, this movie definitely has ambitions that far exceed its budget, but it still does a really good job with it. I really like the characters here, both the main girl and this guy who's crushing on her from afar, is like trying to build up the courage to ask her out. I don't know, I'm just a softie, you know, and it's hard for me to not get invested in a story of just a normal guy who's trying to get the girl. And this is a really like nice, satisfying version of it. The characters are just like really nice people. I genuinely like them a lot. In the third act, you get this big party scene where everybody's in costumes. It looks a lot like a Halloween party, but they never specify that it's Halloween. There's actually a sign out front that calls it a freak frolic. I've never been to a freak frolic before, but I kind of want to. Should I host one? There's a live band that plays at the party that's actually fronted by the leading man here, and I am 100% a sucker for horror movies that have a party scene with a live band. I thought the song that they played was a total banger.
If baby lied to me, she must to lie to you.
I've listened to it multiple times on YouTube. Get this song onto Spotify, please. This is exactly the kind of 80s horror movie I really gravitate to, where it's very fun and good-natured, but you've still got monsters slaughtering people, you still get gore. It's just the right balance. I love Neon Maniacs, and the last thing I want to say is a little tip for you guys. The version streaming on Tubi is definitely a VHS rip. It's watchable, but it's not great. But if you look around on this very platform, you might just find a much better looking version, but you didn't hear it from me.
Coming to you live from Death Manor. We'll be spending one night alone in a haunted house.
Deadstream from 2022. So this is about a disgraced YouTuber who's in the middle of a big controversy. He's incredibly obnoxious and annoying. Man, I just hate YouTubers, don't you? Where was I? But to try to get back his followers, he does a live stream one night alone in a haunted house. But when he accidentally angers a vengeful spirit, his big comeback event becomes a real-time fight for his life. I was really happy and surprised to see this is now streaming on Tubi, because this is actually a Shudder original. So normally you'd only be able to find it on Shudder, but very cool, you can watch it for free right now. And this is also a movie that surprised me because it seems like exactly the kind of movie that I really wouldn't like. I mean, it's about a social media influencer. It's a found footage movie. It's all his live stream, so you've even got the chat from the viewers like on the side of the screen, and all of this sounds kind of obnoxious and annoying, and the main guy is definitely obnoxious. But it just really worked for me, I think, because the movie is so creative. It finds so many different ways to keep you invested, keep you interested. And while the lead guy definitely sucks, he's an unlikable character, he's still interesting to watch, and it's fun to watch him go through absolute hell in this haunted house. The number one movie I hear Deadstream compared to the most is Evil Dead 2, and that's pretty apt because you have got insane, very over-the-top, very comedic monster, creature, ghost stuff going on. This is not Paranormal Activity where you're going to see doors creak and such. You are going to see so many creative creatures on screen, and it's actually really, really fun. So I just love how much this movie goes for it. It's so over the top. It's so high energy, and it's actually directed by a husband and wife team. The husband actually is the star in the movie, and I don't know, I just really respect that. They're going out making movies together. They did a great job. I really think, against all odds, Deadstream is a really fun movie, and even if you don't have a Shudder subscription, now you can check it out on Tubi.
Guys, I think you better take a look at this.
Someone's up there. I saw them. This house is evil.
Deadly Manor from 1990. So this is a Spanish-American slasher movie from the director of Edge of the Axe, which is an awesome film. And it follows a group of road-tripping teenagers who take refuge for a rainy night in an old deserted mansion. Soon the members of the group start turning up dead, and they realize they're not there alone. So besides slashers, I would actually put this in the old dark house genre, which is typically about a group of traveling people who run into a storm and go to a deserted or close to deserted mansion for the night and end up encountering spooky stuff. It's a very classic formula. It's very much what this is. But I'll be honest with you, I've seen a lot of boring examples of that, where it's just kind of characters wandering around a house just waiting to get picked off and die. And that is not Deadly Manor. I thought this was really enjoyable, very fun, much because of the characters who are certainly not interesting, but they keep it entertaining. Like, they're pretty capable actors, and they're just over the top enough to where you get a little bit of that cheesy camp value to it, except for this guy right here, who's one of the most over top actors I've seen in quite some time. This guy is ridiculous.
Major weird.
You've watched too many creepy movies.
They're definitely not the brightest bulbs. Like, before they go in the house, one girl says she saw somebody in the window, and instead of any of them saying, oh, wow, yeah, maybe there is somebody in here, maybe we should knock first, maybe one of us should go in and just check if there's anyone there, there's like, no, you're crazy, there's absolutely no one here, we know 100% certainty for some reason. They are wrong, and that girl was right. Now, I will admit the kills are pretty weak. It's mostly just throat slicing. At this point in horror history, the MPAA was really cracking down on slasher movies, but it's still got plenty of crazy stuff. Like, there is an insane sex scene in the middle of the movie that goes on so long and is so over the top, I was kind of shocked. There are multiple truly bonkers plot twists in the third act, just insane reveals, crazy stuff falling out of the walls, and even just the structure of the order of deaths is so weird and wildly unpredictable. I thought Deadly Manor was a blast. It always keeps things fun and interesting. It's a good time. But next, let's actually talk about a pretty similar movie that is the much earlier Eurotrash version, and that is Bloody Pit of Horror from 1965. It's an Italian horror film about a photographer and his models who go to an old abandoned castle for a photo shoot. But unbeknownst to them, the castle is inhabited by a lunatic who believes himself to be the reincarnated spirit of a 17th century executioner. Now, if you're only really familiar with 70s and 80s Italian horror, 60s Italian horror is a very different vibe. They tend to be like pretty low-key, a very chill kind of experience, and tend to be fairly slow, very hit or miss. I think Bloody Pit of Horror is both a pretty typical example of 60s Italian horror, but also a little bit better. Now, it's certainly not great. This is a goofy movie, and we're putting it on here because it's just kind of more fun to talk about, more than I'm saying it's an amazing film and everybody needs to watch it. Like, I do enjoy that it is about this guy who believes he's an executioner. He is really over the top, very, very silly, lots of dopey lines. And his torture devices, while certainly not being too graphic, this ain't a Saw movie, are very extravagant. By far my favorite one, that is like the main reason I have to talk about this movie, is this spider trap where he puts this girl in this manufactured spider web and has the most ridiculous fake spider coming slowly towards her. I mean, look at this thing. It looks like a frog. It looks like they repurposed an animatronic frog. And this guy's got to creep around the web to go get to her like he's Catherine Zeta-Jones in Entrapment. Insane. I think it's really the camp value that brings the fun to Bloody Pit of Horror. And I had to talk about an insane coincidence I experienced where I watched this movie. So the day before I watched it, I showed my son Lilo and Stitch, the original one, which is an incredible film. And I like rediscovered that all over again, rewatching it after all these years. So good. And I got just really into the Hawaiian atmosphere of it. And I've been listening to Hawaiian music ever since and just loving it. And then randomly in this Italian gothic horror movie, there's a Hawaiian character who plays the ukulele and sings Hawaiian music. And I was like, this never happens in this genre. How is this coincidence possible?
Do you want your little kitty? Dog. Good boy.
Madhouse from 1981. It's an Italian-American slasher film that features giallo influences, but is mostly very convincing as an American movie. And it follows a teacher in Savannah, Georgia, where it was actually shot, who is pursued by her murderous, psychopathic twin sister in the days leading up to her birthday. Man, this is a crazy 80s horror movie I'd always heard pretty good things about, and I'm so glad I finally got around to watching it recently. Madhouse rules. It's a really good movie. Like, I think it's legitimately good, beautifully shot, well acted. It mostly features stage actors, so not recognizable people, but very capable people. It actually stars a woman named Trish Everly, who is drop dead gorgeous and excellent in the film. And this is the only movie she ever did. I don't know why that happened, but she's so good here. And I really enjoyed the plot here about this sister that's after her. And the movie really keeps you guessing on like what's really going on. How much of a madhouse is this? How much is in her head? It's actually a really intriguing mystery. I don't know if the reveals to the end of the mystery were totally satisfying for me. I kind of wish it was a little more straightforward and a little less twisty, but still darn good stuff. And this was actually one of the infamous video nasties. I think because there is some pretty excessive gore at a couple of points, but mostly because of one scene that is the most graphic dog death I've ever seen in a movie. I couldn't believe they went there. So if you're a huge dog lover and you don't want to see a dog die on screen, even though it's totally fake, completely fake, and it looks so, and the dog is actually evil, so a person was acting in total self-defense, still, it's kind of upsetting. It's nuts. I'll never forget it. I will never forget it, but just be warned. Sorority Row from 2009. So this is the sort of remake to the House on Sorority Row, which is actually one of my favorite 80s slashers. I say sort of because they have very little in common. The one thing that really holds them together is it's a college set slasher about some sorority girls, and at the beginning, somebody accidentally dies as a result of a prank that they did. They agree to keep the matter to themselves and never speak it again, but this proves easier said than done when after graduation, a mysterious killer goes after after all of them and anyone who knows this secret. But to really tell you about this film and to really explain why it's on this list, let me read you my Letterboxd review. So astoundingly trashy, it transcends bad and becomes art. 3 stars. I really do think this one stands out from the sea of 2000s remakes that there were, even just 2009 remakes. There were so many, by just how ridiculously over the top this one goes and how vile it is. The characters are so mean and so trashy. It's almost like Sleepaway Camp and how bug nuts bonkers all of the character interactions are. To be bland and generic is the real crime, and Sorority Row is certainly not that. The kill scenes are really insane, really graphic, more than you would expect from a mainstream movie, or I guess that's kind of how the 2000s were, weren't they? But even so, I think this one stands out. If it tried to be a little more classy and respectable, toned it down a little bit, I think it would just be a terrible movie. I mean, the actors aren't particularly great. I don't really like the cinematography and this weird color and how it's shot. Just so aggressively 2000s in a way that I'm not a big fan of. But it just goes for it with gusto in every possible level. It's a slasher film that delivers. And hey, Carrie Fisher is in it too. But before we talk about this next one, I've got to ask,
Do you wish for a great horror film?
That's my sad impression of the great Andrew Divoff in the cinematic masterpiece Wishmaster from 1997.
As you wish.
An ancient genie, or jinn, is released from his ancient prison and seeks to capture the soul of the woman who discovered him. There were a lot of horror movies like this in the 90s, trying to be the next Nightmare on Elm Street and have the next talking, charismatic, kind of funny slasher icon, and Wishmaster might be the very best example of them. I mean, Robert Englund is actually in here. The amount of horror icons that they packed into this one movie and a lot of cameos is pretty astounding. But there are a lot of reasons that this movie is so entertaining, so fun. I love Andrew Divoff as the Djinn. He looks really cool when he's just piled in makeup and prosthetics to look like this monster, but when he just turns into his human self and he's just this swarmy guy going around with a suit trying to trick people into making wishes so he can kill them through it, he's a blast to watch. He's so fun. And Tammy Lauren is like very over the top as the leading lady too, in a way that's really fun to watch. So I actually do like the story. I do like the Djinn tricking people into wishes, but guys, it is the special effects that are really gonna blow you away. Not just the way the Djinn looks, but so much insane gore, crazy kills. When you're dealing with a Djinn, you've got to have really creative kills, and this one really goes for it, including one of the best opening scenes you're probably ever going to see with an absolute, this is another one that opens up with like a supernatural massacre that just rockets the movie up to awesome status. If you want to watch a bonkers 90s horror film that's never going to even slightly bore you, I think Wishmaster is one of the best examples.
Here's to June and David. Hello?
Bury the Bride from 2023. So did you know Tubi actually has Tubi originals, movies that Tubi actually made and put exclusive on their service? Bury the Bride is actually one of them. It's directed by Spider-One from the band Power Man 5000, and who is actually Rob Zombie's brother. And this one stars Scout Taylor Compton, yes, the lead from Rob Zombie's Halloween movies, as a bride-to-be who goes to a cabin in the woods for a bachelorette party. And her friends are a little bit uncomfortable about this because they're very much city girls, but she's gonna marry a real down-home country boy that she just met, and they don't know. And when him and his country boy friends show up to crash the party, things get dark. And that's kind of all I want to say, because this is one that really thrives off of a twist. And I really think it's a twist that is impossible to guess, because it doesn't really work as a mystery. There's really no way to see where it's going. Just a bunch of dudes show up, things start getting a little bit tense, and it goes to some crazy places. I actually really like the actors here. I think Scout Taylor Compton is really a great actress who often doesn't get her due. And then you've got this girl as the crazy party girl who's very over the top in a blast of a way. And the male actors here I thought were really good. Like, they felt very authentic as down-home country boys. And I'm from Missouri, so I know what I'm talking about. They felt legit. And when I looked them up after, they actually looked like a bunch of actor-y pretty boys, but they were really able to transform for this movie. And I thought they gave great performances. sequences. Now, it's very low budget. It was shot in about a week, and you can tell sometimes, especially with some bad day for night photography, but this is one that I just took a chance on and ended up having a lot of fun with it, partially also because I'm a big fan of the particular horror subgenre this operates in, which I can't tell you, but it's a good one.
This is a house where no one should live. Horror has found a new home.
House from 1985, a haunted house movie directed by Steve Miner, the guy that gave us Friday the 13th parts 2 and 3, Halloween H2O, Lake Placid. He's done so much, and Warlock. He's done so much cool stuff. And this one stars William Katt as a divorced horror novelist coming to terms with the disappearance of his young son, who inherits an old mansion that is home to malevolent supernatural residents. Ultimately, this video and this series that I do is dedicated to crazy, fun horror movies, and House absolutely qualifies as that. House is an absolute blast. It does operate for the most part as a real horror movie, and it does have a lot of creatures and practical effects. This is one of those haunted house movies that it understands that a haunted house film really doesn't have any rules, and like a haunting, a ghost, that can kind of be whatever you want. And like it's a get out of jail free card for creativity, and House gets that. It's got so much creative stuff, monsters in the closets, multiple different ghosts, and even Norm.
Afternoon, everybody. Norm!
Yes, Norm from Cheers, George Wendt is in here. And that's another reason I want to talk about this one, because he actually just passed away. So RIP to George Wendt. I actually just recently, like a few weeks before he passed, started watching Cheers for the first time ever. I just started watching it on Hulu, and I love it. I love Cheers. So great to see him in this movie too. But outside of horror, it's got quite a bit of comedy as well. Some people put it in horror comedy. I think it's kind of more of a horror movie with comedic elements, but there's definitely funny moments, some wild tonal shifts, some goofy creatures and ghosts, and a dark Vietnam backstory that's kind of weird. But I just love House. I think it's just one of the most enjoyable 80s horror films just throw on. I've watched it many times. I'm sure I'll watch it many more times. I just love it. Before I go, I just want to give a massive thank you to my patrons who truly make this channel possible. If you want to support me, there's always a link to my Patreon in the description below. And I want to give a special shout out to Christopher L. Davis, Stacy Rose, and Penelope Courtney. You all are the absolute best. So that's my list, but what are some other bonkers horror movies that I should be checking out? Let me know down in the comments below. If you want to hang out with me more, you can click on my last video on bonkers horror movies on Tubi. That's all different picks, and it was also really fun. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to enjoy yourselves today. Have some fun, and I'll see you next time. Bye.